Okay. Uh, Thanks for joining this first session of the Transportation Workforce Summit. We're really excited to have everybody here and to get this conversation started. Before we jump into things, I just wanted to give those of you who may not be familiar an overview of those of us who are hosting today's summit. So if you're not familiar with Colorado LTAP or LTAP in general, we're a federal grant program funded by Federal Highway Administration in partnership with the Colorado Department of Transportation. And we're tasked with bringing best practices, innovation, resources, and training to all of our local agencies within Colorado. So all of the municipalities and counties when it comes to highway and road management. We have a three-legged stool I won't go into, but we really focus on what we're talking about today, which is workforce development, both in the current environment and as well as those not yet in the industry. We offer technical assistance by way of equipment loan program. We've got a safety circuit rider at the DOT who can help offer some engineering support. We've got project coordination and grant and funding coordination and support as well. And then we do an information exchange, just making sure that our local agencies are abreast of the latest and greatest the within the industry. We are one of a number of LTAPs across the country. Sometimes I say we're the best kept secret, but not for long. We have LTAP centers in every single state and Puerto Rico with 6 tribal programs across the country, all with the same mission, but we look very different so that we can customize and address and help our local agencies as is appropriate within each state. With us, you may wonder what's the connection with Front Range Community College. As I mentioned, we're funded by FHWA as well as CDOT, but currently Front Range Community College has the contract to administer the program here in Colorado. And they vied for that contract for a number of reasons, but because they have a only highway maintenance management associate's degree program in the country. So we've partnered up to make sure that when participants take our classes, they can actually get college credit for the training that they're receiving. And these on the screen will just show you a few of the different credits that can be received by going to our different classes. This program is fully online. I believe that they have students from 17 different states currently. It's also self-driven. And so it really does work within the individual schedule. And we know in our industry, those schedules can be extended and shortened and sometimes unexpected. So I encourage you to reach out to more. I joke Sue, who is introduced in the welcome, she's the other curly-haired woman who's also a director at Front Range Community College. So if you just email one of us, we'll get you to the right place. We have an externally focused effort going on right now, trying to get individuals who are not already within the industry into the industry and lay that pipeline for those long careers that can be found within public works. And we call that the Colorado Road and Bridge Institute. For those of you not in Colorado, your state may have something similar, but here we offer a 3-week full-time training program where participants will come out with their OSHA 10, their Flagger first aid certifications, and their Road Scholar 1. And then if they obtain a job with a local agency and are in good standing after a quarter, we're actually going to sponsor them to get their CDL. Again, just trying to lay the pipeline for a skilled workforce into our local agencies and give them the support with CDL drivers that they can use. Our next one is coming up in December. So there's a QR code. You can reach out for more information. If you're interested in starting something in your area, I'm always happy to share lessons learned so you don't repeat some of the things that I do and you can kind of hit the ground running. Chris mentioned in the welcome that, the conversation obviously doesn't start or stop today. So some of the things that you may be interested in, FHWA has an EDC7 website dedicated to strategic workforce development. You'll see that the co-chair, Rhonda Motley, there is one of our speakers today. They've got a number of different resources that you can reach out to. You can reach out to them and they can give you even more than what you may find on that website. And then a plug for the Transportation Research Board's They are having another national summit next summer or this coming summer on the future of transportation workforce. So again, just want to put that save the date out there. Those QR codes are there for you. We'll be showing these in every breakout session. So if you don't get it now, don't panic. And then we have questions and contacts, but we'll skip that and get to today. So this morning, we're starting off with two different sessions. You have opted for the trends, shifts, and changes in Colorado workforce and workforce development. And our presenter here is Dr. Caitlin McKennie, who is a talent pipeline economist. And I told her this is one of the coolest job titles I've seen in a long time. So I'm really excited to see what she has to say today. But Caitlin, I'm gonna kick it over to you and let you introduce yourself a little bit more and get going. So I'll stop sharing and it's all you.
Thanks so much, Heather. I am going to share my screen. Does that look okay to everybody?
Yeah, I'm seeing your we are seeing your
Are you
script.
seeing the notes? Oh, shoot. Hold on one sec.
No problem.
Heather, would you be able to maybe share my slides for me?
Sure would. Why don't you go ahead and get started and I will pull those up when you if you want to introduce yourself.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for having me this morning. For those of you I have not had the opportunity to work with yet, I'm Caitlin, as Heather mentioned, the Talent Pipeline Report Economist for the state of Colorado. This is a shared position between the Workforce Development Council at the Department of Labor and Employment and the Department of Higher Education. So during today's presentation, I'm going to start by giving you a brief overview of what the Talent Pipeline Report is and some of our central findings that we saw during 2023 and 2024 through our data lens. And this is really meant to better serve our job seekers, our students, and our employers. And to be as relevant as possible to all of you listening in today, we have done a data poll on current economic outlooks for the highway, street, and bridge construction industry, starting with Colorado's statewide snapshot, and then we're going to move into the broader national outlook. So this is saved at the end of the report or the end of the presentation today, so we are saving the best for last. I'm going to pop myself off camera while I do the presentation just for bandwidth issues, but I will be back on afterwards for any discussion or questions that we might have at the end. So with that, let's dive in.
Can everybody
You can
see
move
the
to the next
screen?
slide.
Are you seeing it as well?
I think it
It
looks
looks
great.
great. Yep, no problem.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Oh,
So what is the Talent Pipeline Report? Why does it matter? And what is the overall goal? Following legislative direction in Colorado, the Colorado Workforce Development Council, in partnership with Higher Ed, began publishing the Talent Pipeline Report annually since 2014. And every year we've tried to make tweaks and add nuances to make its content as relevant as possible for the state of Colorado. For those of you who might not be too familiar with the report, this publication is meant to provide key insights on Colorado's economic outlooks and needs surrounding talent in our state, really trying to utilize data to shape the fundamental structure of our narrative. And this essentially is meant to do two different things. First, it's meant to give us a better understanding of where the future of work is headed in Colorado. And second, it offers strategies and resources which will help policymakers make informed decisions to try to bolster the statewide workforce system and keep Colorado's economy thriving. Next slide, please. So first, let's dive in to the previous publication content with a brief recap of the economic outlook in Colorado. Colorado continued to experience very strong economic conditions in 2023, outpacing the US during that period and ranking third best in the nation in terms of economic prosperity. With more Coloradans actively working or looking to join the job market, the state has returned to its pre-pandemic employment to population ratio of nearly 76%. And this is remaining above national levels by about 6%. Colorado's labor force participation rate remained unchanged at about 69% for the fourth month in a row as of July, ranking fifth highest nationally relative to other states. And average hourly earnings saw roughly a 6% annual growth over the last 12 months, outpacing the national average by more than $3 per hour. Next slide, please. At the same time as Colorado was surpassing national averages in terms of economic well-being, the demand for talent in the job market has remained at historically high levels for both Colorado and the US, and many employers are still struggling to find the skilled workforce they need to manage thriving businesses. Because of this, robust training, educational initiatives, and strategies to recruit undertapped talent from traditionally marginalized groups will continue to be crucial. During 2023, there were on average 2.5 jobs for every unemployed person in Colorado. Next slide, please. So the figure on this slide reports Colorado's labor force participation rate broken out by age and sex. Males between the ages of 25 and 54 retain the highest labor force participation rate in the state during 2023. While data across both males and females in the youngest and oldest age groups are associated with the lowest participation rates. This graph is notable because it allows viewers to recognize the similar trajectories that males and females tend to follow in the labor market in Colorado across all age groups. However, males consistently tend to have a higher workforce participation rate in every age group outside of the 20 to 24 bracket, where females outpace men by about 1%. This general trend, linking higher participation rates to males in Colorado, could be attributed to a number of different working factors, and this includes lingering gender inequities across wages and also childcare constraints. Next slide, please. However, while women still have mostly lower labor force participation rates, recent state trends have shown a very strong recovery for women in Colorado during 2023 and 2024. Women were initially more adversely impacted in the workforce by the pandemic, but shifts in economic indicators are now telling a new story in our state, which is pretty interesting. The unemployment rate for women in Colorado is currently about a 0.5 percentage point lower than the gender's pre-pandemic levels. And between September 2022 and August 2023, women's unemployment rate sat at about 3% compared to the nearly 4% rate for men during the same period. And this outcome can likely be explained in part by the expansion of telework in the state, providing more flexible options for families and making it easier to rejoin the labor market. Next slide, please. The figure on the left-hand side of this slide shows Colorado's employment rate by education level. So here we see as educational attainment increases, unemployment levels mostly decrease. The reason for a relatively slightly higher unemployment percentage reported in the third population outcome is likely because the sample associated with some college or associate's degree contains multiple categories within it, such as individuals who took some college courses and then chose to discontinue their education. So because of this, our estimates are likely biasing upwards unemployment level for Coloradan associate degree holders. Next slide, please. According to labor market estimates published by Georgetown University in 2024, between now and 2031, there'll be an average of 355,000 job openings per year in Colorado. And based on these estimates, about 260,000 of these annual openings, or about 73%, will be linked to occupations typically held by post-secondary graduates. About 71,000 of these annual job openings, or about 20%, will be linked to occupations that are typically held by workers with a high school diploma or equivalent. And lastly, about roughly 25,000 of these openings, or just about 7% will be linked to occupations that are typically held by workers without a high school diploma or equivalent. Slide, please. So we assume that the majority of these openings will be triggered by two different factors working together in the economy. The first being the need for new jobs, a trend that is expected to be driven largely by tech advances. And second being replacement roles needed to be filled by more individuals stepping out of the job market to retire as the state population ages. Next slide, please. Thank you. The figure on the slide shows Colorado's attainment level relative to all other states. So in 2024, findings at Lumina Foundation's Stronger Nation report showcase that Colorado now has the highest educational attainment out of any other state in the US outside of Washington, D.C., with a post-secondary attainment rate of nearly 63% statewide. This means that 63% of Coloradans between the ages of 25 and 64 have some form of a post-secondary credential, ranging from certifications and certificates to graduate and professional degrees. For comparison purposes, the national level is just over 54%. And while this is a major win for our state, current workforce projections suggest that the increases in attainment levels across Colorado's population may not be enough to bridge the gap in terms of the expected level of education and training needed for future employer demand. To meet future talent needs, the population pool of Coloradans with a post-secondary credential will have to increase by roughly 10% by 2031 to avoid supply and demand gaps. So this means that Colorado's institutions of higher education will need to supply approximately 45,000 additional credential completers annually to meet demand needs for roughly the next 7 years. Next slide, please. In terms of employment gains by industry sectors in upcoming years, the figure on the slide reports CDLE's long-term employment forecast gains by new job creation through 2032. Professional scientific and technical services, healthcare and social assistance, and educational services are expected to have the greatest long-term need relative to other industries in the state, with more than 190,000 estimated jobs by 2032. And you can also see that construction and transportation and warehousing are part of the top 10 projected industries to gain the most employment growth in the state as well. This is shown at the top right, where you can see transportation and warehousing, and the bottom left of the slide where you can see construction. Next slide, please. One section in particular that attracts a lot of attention from our readers each year surrounds in-demand skills and identifying associated skill gaps. So providing these trends in the report showcases what employers are telling us on skills needs in our state. In the next few slides, we'll dive into this topic. Based on active job postings alone, we can assume that core skills will continue to be more valuable to employers relative to technical skills, as unique job ads requiring specific core skills outweighed technical skills by nearly fourfold in 2023. The following slide will list out these in-demand skill sets by job ads in Colorado during this year. The two tables on this slide report the leading technical and core skills side by side sought after by Colorado employers between September 2022 and September 2023. If you want to pop on to the next slide. This year, Microsoft and coding platforms stood out across the technical skills. And then if we move on to the next slide, core skills related more to critical thinking were linked widely to communication, collaboration, adaptability, problem solving, and customer service. And if anyone listening in is interested, you can also browse the full list of Colorado's in-demand skills and certificates by employer postings in Appendix B of the online report. Next slide, please. Thanks. Now we're going to shift our discussion to workforce certifications. Relative to 2018, workforce certifications and post-secondary certificate completers in Colorado have declined about 0.1% and 1.4% respectively. The current short-term credential rate in Colorado is just over 7%. These findings come at a very critical time when nearly 20% of occupations across Colorado are expected to require some type of training certificate by 2031. In the future, high demand by Colorado employers for a diverse talent pool and changing skills needs could be a driving factor in larger enrollment numbers for short-term credential programs. Next slide, please. So in the next few slides, we will spotlight some of the highest expected in-demand workforce certifications by 2031 in Colorado. The figure on this slide showcases the top projected demand for workforce certificates by 2031. This data is sourced by a 2024 Georgetown University study, and while Georgetown displays post-secondary vocational certificates, we generally refer to these top-ranked credentials as workforce certificates. Great expectations come from, if you want to pop onto the next slide, food and professional services, such as skincare specialists, shampooers and hairdressers, hairstylists, and cosmetologists. And then if we move to the next one, occupations that typically require apprenticeships or moderate to long-term on-the-job training, such as mechanics, tool and die makers, electricians and installers, and aircraft technicians. And then popping on to the next one. Healthcare support roles such as medical assistants and dental assistants. And then lastly, transportation and construction with occupations such as commercial drivers and crane and tower operators. So now we're going to move into our second section of the presentation. So we're going to pivot our discussion to provide all of you with a high-level overview of Colorado's highway, street, and bridge industry. So looking at the figure on this slide, starting from left to right, we can see that Colorado is definitely a hotspot for this type of talent. The national average for an area this size is about 7,000 employees, while there are nearly 9,000 employees here. Earnings per job are pretty high. They are making more than $20,000 per year, more per year than what a family of three needs to make in the state in order to make a livable wage. And competition from online job postings is also pretty high in Colorado. The national average for an area this size is about 65 job postings per month, while there are roughly 163 here. So that's a very big difference. The regional versus national average employment really helps us understand if the supply of highway, street, and bridge construction, if the supply of highway, bridge, and street construction individual or employees is a strength or weakness for Colorado, and how it's changing relative to the nation. So this is shown here on this slide. So we see that there's a higher than expected supply, which may make it easier for employers to find candidates. The gap between expected and actual employment is projected to narrow over the next 5 years, although continue to grow. So between 2018 and 2023, this industry experienced about a 5% increase in terms of job growth. And between now and 2028, it's expected to grow, but a little bit, slightly less. It's expected to grow by about 3%. Retirement risk is about average in Colorado. The national average for an area this size is about 2,300 employees that are 55 years or older. And there are roughly the same number of current employees in Colorado currently. And relative to national averages, racial and gender diversity are both high in Colorado for this sector, which is great. On this slide, we can see the unemployment rate trends over time through January 2024. So you can see that it has been very volatile. However, this is likely due to the industry seasonal factor. It also experienced several peaks during the pandemic, which is likely due to a large amount of stimulus funding that was allocated to the industry in the state during that time. This slide showcases the majority of jobs associated with the highway, street, and bridge industry in Colorado. Most jobs are found in the construction and extraction occupations industry sector, and this is followed by management occupations and the transportation and material moving occupations. So here on this slide, we can see a snapshot of demand for this type of talent in the state. Over the past 12 months, there's been about 101 employers that are seeking employees with these types of skills that relate to the highway, street, and bridge industry. These employers have posted nearly 2,000 unique, which means that they are not being double counted, job postings in the state during this time. And they have about a 29-day median duration. This posting duration is roughly 4 days longer than what is typical in an area this size. And this is one of my favorite slides. So this slide showcases the top 15 skills for all job types within the sector by quarter between July 2023 through September 2024. And skills, skills generally help us understand where the direction of the industry is headed. So we can see that over the past 5 quarters that are shown on this slide, we can see that the top 3 skills employers are really looking for have remained relatively the same. And they include construction, subcontracting, and project management. So for the final section of our discussion today, we are going to take a look at a larger level, focusing on national trends. So let's dive into a US snapshot of the highway, street, and bridge industry. This slide provides a heat map of where the workforce is located across the 48 states. Texas employs the highest percentage of highway, street, and bridge workers, while California and Florida follow in second and third. You can also see that the East Coast and the Midwest regions are additionally a hotspot for this type of talent. This slide displays the level of job growth between 2018 and 2023, which is shown by the solid line on the left-hand side, similar to the Colorado national chart. And the right-hand side displays job growth projections between now and 2028. Between 2018 and 2023, this industry increased by 9% in terms of job growth, which is pretty high. And between now and 2028 is projected to continue to grow, but similar to Colorado, at a slightly slower pace of 6%. While job growth is expected to continue to climb, it has also remained relatively stable over this period, showing that it is very robust and strong. Here we see the industry's workforce by age categories. So the majority of the national workforce for this industry are between 35 and 54, accounting for about 45% of the share of these employees. Roughly 20% of these workers are between 25 and 34, and about 19% are between 55 and 64. Here we see the highway, street, and bridge industry disaggregated by race and ethnicity. About 64% of these workers identify as Caucasian. Roughly 1/4 identify as Hispanic or Latino, and about 10% identify as Black or African American. Approximately 13% of these individuals are female, and roughly the remaining 87% are male. Sorry, I just had to yell at my dog. Um, So the figure on this slide analyzes the profile of current and past employees in the industry nationwide. The left column displays previous roles across industries associated with the highway, street, and bridge industry. And the right column shows the next career transition so that individual chose to take. Hold on one second. I'm just going to open the door for my dog. Oh, if we could just go back really fast. I'm sorry. One sec.
Also, for those of you not in Colorado, dogs are a thing. You can bring them to restaurants. They have treats out for them and water bowls. So I have one as well. So
I'm very sorry. I'm just going to start this slide kind of
sure.
re-talking about what I was just saying. So I think that I really like this slide too. So it analyzes the profile of current and past employees nationwide that are in this industry. So if you look at the left column in the blue displays what previous roles across occupations that are associated with highway, street, and bridge, with the highway, street, and bridge industry. And then the right column shows what is their next career transitions that the individual chose to take. So the data here suggests is really positive. It suggests that most individuals within the highway, street, and bridge industry who decided to take on a new role actually stay in the same sector. So it's doing a good job at retaining individuals. The second industry that workers chose to take is associated with engineering services, which I also thought was pretty neat. And sorry, Heather, we can pop on to the next slide. So similar to the previous section that when we were looking at just Colorado, this slide spotlights demand for the highway, street, and bridge industry in the nation. Over the past 12 months, there's been roughly 2,000 employers that have been posting and competing for talent in this field. So across these employers, they have posted nearly 41,000 unique job postings. And again, when we say unique job postings, that means that they're not being double counted. And the median duration for these postings remained online for about 28 days, which is pretty good. It means that, people are really wanting to step into these roles and work. So that wraps up my presentation with all of you today. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your morning to listen in. If any of you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them with the time we have left. Or you can always feel free to contact me through the email address that's listed on this slide. I'm always happy to discuss data as well as provide any data requests to the best of my ability if any of you need anything. I've also provided a copy of these slides to Heather in case anyone is interested in having a copy. And lastly, I just wanted to shout out that our launch event for the 2024 Talent Pipeline Report is planned to come out this December. So please make sure all of you register for the event on the CWDC website if you're interested in listening in. And thank you so much again.
All right. Thanks so much, Caitlin, for bringing that in. I know there's so much data, and if you've been to Colorado or I'm guessing other states' websites and tried to download and data mine your own stories, it can get really kind of complex. What you just put together would have taken me quite a while to get together. So thanks so much for being here. I will open it up and see if anybody here has any questions or any comments about what they saw today. Okay, I am comfortable with awkward silences, but I do have comments and questions. So it's time to take yourselves off mute. This is that participation piece of things. One of the things that I found really interesting here in Colorado is that we tend to have a good supply of workers because that's contrary to what I'm hearing from our local agencies. Did anybody else hear that and see or think that was interesting? Maybe wonder where are they going? Where are they taking those jobs if the supply is there? No, just me.
Well, and I think that that's really interesting too, because I know that a lot of employers have been struggling to find talent in this, in these different occupations in this field. And so we use it's called Lightcast. We use an econometric modeling platform that looks at resume forensics across present and past job seekers. For this, it would be present job seekers that are looking to find a job, and then job postings, and then take that over the past 12 months to look and see how much is the supply meeting the demand, and what's the gap. So there are a lot of people who are trained in this. It's similar to what we're seeing. We're seeing the same thing right now in individuals who are trained to basically go into the professional, scientific, and technical field. We're not seeing, there's a ton of employers that are trying to employ individuals with those skills. And it looks like Coloradan individuals and job seekers have those skills, but they're not going into that field. And for some reason, we're seeing the same thing with highway, bridge, and street, with a highway, street, and bridge industry as well. So I'm not I don't know why. We have been looking at the PSEO data for these things, and it looks like individuals who attain training or post-secondary credentials have been going into different fields across every single industry in both of these sectors, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it definitely makes me think about, how do we approach workforce development if there's actually a skilled workforce and the skills training isn't what's lacking? Is it how do we attract the workforce that may be out there?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's the big question. And, I'm looking over the slides again. If, you can see that the demand is very, very high. So we outpace the nation um, by about 25% in terms of demand for this type of talent. So that's also a factor that's weighing in as well.
And Heather, I think that that's much more specific to Colorado than it is what we're seeing on the East Coast. Part of what we're doing in the National Workforce Committee is looking at some of the untapped markets of skilled folks, because we are not getting in Connecticut's towns and cities, we're not getting the level of skilled applicants. We're still facing the challenges of the CDL requirements, continue to have those. People are being very innovative. I'm hearing many people talk less about the challenges and how are we figuring this out, because they're just so tired of not getting the workers. They figure they have to be creative. That's what we're seeing mostly here. So yeah, I think part of what you're saying might be specific to Colorado. But I very much, Caitlin, appreciate this, both the Colorado and national perspective. It's good information. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, and Donna, I would also guess, this is a guess on my part, or I don't know, educated assumption that urban versus rural, right? The skilled workforce that we may have here in Colorado may not be evenly distributed to some of those smaller communities. And so while they're finding the workforce, or the workforce is available here within kind of our urban corridor, those further reaches, those smaller communities are not don't have access to the same type of workforce as well.
That's a good point. I mean, we're so small here that, there's such a blur between the urban rural communities, because, we're 2 hours top to bottom.
Yeah,
We
we
don't
are.
really have
I could drive 8 hours and I'm still in Colorado. So
geographic distribution. But that is a good point, though. Kind of
Yeah.
segmenting the data into that potential.
And Donna, I'd be happy to do a specific regional poll on Connecticut for this industry as well, if you'd like that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'd love it. Thank you. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
We
Okay,
do have one
perfect.
more minute.
Heather, can I send it to you?
Sorry. We just have a couple more seconds here, but one thing that I found interesting is what you highlighted as the growth rate in the industry as having been 9% and then a projected 6% going forward. That is higher than we are actually hearing. I think FHWA has published a 4% expected growth. I don't know, it's a 10-year period, maybe it's a different 10-year period, but the point to be made there is, hey, the expected growth is not going to get smaller. It looks like it's going to trend in a larger direction. So that was interesting to me as well. Hey,
Yeah.
thanks so much, Caitlin, for putting this together and for your willingness to kind of join in and learn what LTAP is. She definitely said, sure, I'll present. Who's the audience? So, and why we're talking about transportation, again, Talent Pipeline and Economist, one of the coolest titles I've heard in a while. So I really appreciate your time. And I will let you go. And if you want to, for those of you on the line, if you're staying, great. If you want to jump to a different track, then we'll have you do that. But we'll get going here on our next one in just a few minutes.
And Caitlin,
Thanks,
we all have and love our dogs, so no worries on everyone.
Sorry, it's never happened
No
before.
problem, believe me. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good day. Thanks, Heather. See you next.
Okay, so I'll go through this quickly because you're going to hear this at every single breakout session today. We tried to make it really quick. If you're not familiar with Colorado LTAP, you certainly will be by the end of today. But we're basically a local, a federal grant in partnership with the state DOT to bring resources, training, and support to the local agencies when it comes to roadway maintenance. We focus on workforce development, technical assistance, and information exchange. I like to explain our program as like a transportation library for local agencies. So all of the traditional support you would receive as an individual at your local library, local agencies can reach out to us for that same type of support, whether it's filling out forms, getting training, getting resources or access to resources and research as well. Once participants take our classes, that can translate right into college credit without even trying it. They just have to show up to their voluntold training for the day, and we're going to give them college credit at the nation's only highway maintenance degree program, which is situated at Front Range Community College. It's a pretty cool partnership we have. The thing I would stress about this program is that it's self-driven, it's online, and so it allows for all of that life and work flexibility that may be needed. And my partner in crime, Sue Belargin, who is on the other track today, is really focused on awarding credit for prior learning. She comes from almost 34 years at the Connecticut DOT, 19 of them she spent driving snowplow. So she knows what it's like to go from that arena and translate that into education and not wanting to relearn what you already know. So I would encourage anybody interested to reach out to her. Shameless or not so shameless plug about our upcoming Road and Bridge Institute. It's a 3-week program trying to give everybody the skills that they need to successfully walk onto a crew and begin working immediately. Our next one is coming up in December. We do have support services where we can help supplement the cost of childcare, mileage, lodging, food, counseling, drug testing, whatever may be needed during those 3 weeks. And it's all just to lay the pipeline for underrepresented populations to get into the industry and raise a general awareness about our industry and all of its opportunities. Conversation certainly doesn't end here. It might not start here. It's been pretty quiet, but it doesn't end here. There's a number of different resources. Rhonda's going to speak to some of this today, I'm sure. And then the TRB, the Transportation Research Board, is hosting its National Summit on the Future of Transportation Workforce this coming summer. So it's in the small print at the bottom. It's June 2nd through the 4th here in Westminster. If you're in Colorado or want to come to Colorado, June's a lovely time of year to visit. So hope we can see you there. All right, we're in the second session of 3 for this summit. And so I want to take a little bit of time to introduce our speaker today. Today we are joined by Rhonda Motley. She's originally from Cleveland, Ohio, which is funny. We just had our national LTAP conference there last year. But Rhonda's motivated by sharing knowledge and learning new things. After retiring from the military with 25 years of service, and I always will say this, thank you for your service. 25 years is a lot. She's continued her federal career, and in 2010, she did so with the Department of Defense, working with the Department of the Army Office of the Inspector General as a chief assistant and as the chief of assistance in investigations. I'm going to quiz you all on that later. It's the this of this at this as this kind of scenario, but she's really detail oriented, highly motivated with over 30 years experience in investigations and equal opportunity. Her specialized experience includes serving as a primary advisor that provides guidance on Civil Rights Act of 1964, its rules, regulations, and policies, complaints processing, strategic workforce development, and training. She currently serves as the FHWA Nevada Division Civil Rights Program Manager and as the headquarter Federal Highway Administration Strategic Workforce Development Outreach Co-Chair. I think that's written down somewhere, so you don't have to repeat that or remember it. She earned her bachelor's in human relations from Excelsior College and master's in human service counseling at Liberty University and an MS in social work from American University. So with that, I'm going to put myself on mute, turn my camera off and hand it over to you, Rhonda. I'll get your slides up here shortly.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Clap, clap, clap. Thank you so much. Thank you, Heather. Heather gave me an excellent introduction. And I just want to talk to you a little bit today about strategic workforce development and what our initiative is. But what I'm going to do, Heather, is it okay if I turn my camera off? Because the building that I'm in is like a little, the broadband is kind of not good. So would that be okay?
Yep, absolutely. We'll be looking at your slides. Thanks, Rhonda.
Sounds good. Okay, next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, and I'm the type of person, I don't like to do death by PowerPoint. So I'm just going to read a little bit with the slides, and I'm going to, if you want to, I can, at the end of this presentation, we could just discuss some things about strategic workforce development, about outreach. Because as you know, as we drive down the highway, we may not recognize the number of workers it takes to keep our transportation system going. So frequently, you got to realize out of sight and out of mind are engineers, technicians, construction workers, and other people who oversee the care of our infrastructure. That's why there's not enough people in the transportation construction industry to fill those demands. And so right now, transportation employees, we would need to hire up to 4.6 million workers, or 1.2 times the current transportation workforce, in the next decade. Next slide. Like I was saying, it is a very big dire need for the workforce, and workforce development is a dire state. We're at a dire state right now. And what needs to be addressed are the three main factors. And those factors are the project delays, the skills gaps, and the industry perception. Now, a little bit with the project delays, we have a lot of inadequate workforce development in this scene. And it's a significant impact on project quality and timelines. So since it's such a significant impact, the quality of the projects and timelines sometimes are not met. And the projects may suffer in that, by that being that way, and it will hinder success with skills and properly trained workforce. So the AGCs, reported that 82% of firms report projects they worked on have been delayed because of the lack of supply, the lack of workers, and just the lack of shortages in all kind of facets of labor. Now, with the skills gaps, when we lack the necessary skills and knowledge required for the project, it can result in just lower quality work. And so with strategic workforce development, I would just call it SWD. We're looking for those skilled workers. We're looking to train those skilled workers in the industry. And there's a need for a culture shift in the industry perception. So we're looking at students and letting students know that the demand and pay for the trades and how much, how much salary they would earn, because you have to realize, and like I was telling my boss yesterday, a lot of these young people are not college material, and they'll say that they're not college material, so they'd rather do something else. So what they'd rather do is a trade. So we try to gear them more towards a trade. Next slide. Roads to your future. Highway construction workforce. There's another program called HCWP program. And the HCWP program is Highway Construction Workforce Partnership. And we emerged that as a response to the urgent need to revitalize and strengthen the highway construction workforce as well. But FHWD supports building tomorrow's highways construction force through the CHWP and SWP programs, saying that we use both those programs to try to build our heavy highway construction. Next slide. Because let me tell you a little bit about this program. This program established working partnerships in transportation industry, nonprofits and private industries, academia, federal, state, tribal, and local governments. Because this program was initially has 6 pilot states. and because I'm going to talk about those pilot states a little bit in the presentation. And the 6 pilot states are now national programs, which we thought was pretty cool. And the goal was to establish working partnerships between transportation industries, nonprofits, and different government entities. And we figured by partnering with these key organizations and focusing on CHWP and SWD, we could develop and deploy, some good comprehensive training programs that's tailored basically to the needs of the industry. Because we have to realize also beyond training, the initiative will place a big emphasis on facilitating job placement and ensuring that the workers are trained in the workforce sector. Next slide. Okay, also we have OJTSS and HCP. OJTSS is on-the-job training supportive services. And they both have, because a lot of people get all these programs mixed up, OJTSS, HCWP, and SWD. But these programs both have the goals to identify, train, and place. OJT and other state and stakeholders funds are used for HCWP, and HCWP encourage greater workforce partner engagement. By saying that, the OJTSS funds can be used in support of HCWP. And my division, I'm with the Nevada division, FHWA Nevada division, and we got contractor organizations, state and local workforce development boards, and we even have community colleges and nonprofits. We try to encourage them to be partners of this program. So we have a lot of them that's jumping on the bandwagon with it, and we would like that continue to happen because we're trying to expand on partnership participation by providing greater industry and workforce development involvement. That's what we're trying to do. And so far, it's looking good. Next slide. That slide right there just shows you the states that are participating in the Strategic Workforce Development Program. Because we have it, we call it an Everyday Count 7 initiative. And the goal is and was to increase the capacity and capability of highway construction workforce. Next slide. And also to let me know if I'm going a little fast, because sometimes I'm a fast talker. So if I'm going fast or you want me to repeat something, just let me know. Thanks.
Sounds good, thanks.
All right, thank you. Now with this one, the EDC 7 Strategic Workforce Development, our goal is to increase the capacity and capability of highway construction force. We also develop new resources and innovative strategies for identifying, training, and placing and retaining individuals in the construction workforce. And the EDC 7 Council Initiative selected Strategic Workforce Development as a 2023-2024 innovation, because we're trying to raise awareness about this program, foster healthy attitudes towards construction careers, because some people in some different states think that, construction careers, no, I don't want to do that. That's dirty. We don't want to do that. But they have to realize it's a lot of money in the construction fields. And we try to build capacity in the highway construction workforce. We try to utilize industry accredited and pre-employment programs. We promote workforce equality. Workforce equity. That's our main thing, is to promote equity and support development of new industry workforce development programs. Also, we're trying hard to rebuild the educational pipeline and prepare the next generation of construction workers. Because we know a lot of construction workers, a lot of those people are retiring. They're saying, you know what, I'm washing my hands with this, I'm retiring. But they're doing that, but by them doing it, we don't have replacements for these folks out here. That's why it's important that we try to continue our outreach with all these different programs. Next slide. We always talk about the power of partnerships. We all know that the power of partnerships is very crucial when it comes to this kind of stuff, because we try to partner with a lot of different key organizations to develop and deploy highway construction training. And we're looking at placement programs, and this initiative will increase trained and hired individuals in highway construction trades and crafts, because we push it. We even have programs where we even take the young folks out in high schools and things like that, take them out on a construction site so they can see what we do on the construction site, so they can see, you know, what goes on and the different equipment and things of that nature. But SWD states, we found the most successful partnering with organizations to provide training support and resource trainees' needs to be successful when entering the construction force. So mostly in the program, all of our trades and things that we have are trades that can make you some money. And we try to paint a big picture for the young folks when we bring them out on the sites or tell them about the Strategic Workforce Development Program, or HCWP. Next slide. And those are just some of our national partners. Give you a chance to just go over that slide. Okay. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Okay, next slide. Thank you. Tribal Workforce Development. Right now, Wisconsin Department of Transportation, we're kind of looking more to the tribal workforce development, because here in the great state of Nevada, we have 27 federally recognized tribes here. So I'm going to try to get our tribal program going as well. But Wisconsin, they have a wonderful tribal program, because we're trying to get the tribes to realize that we have these programs. And WisDOT have a 6-week intense training program, and it prepares local tribal members for careers in the road and heavy highway construction, in the road and construction industry. And that's a success story. One of the young man there, I want to say, I think Daniel was the one with the orange in his vest. He graduated and who moved from flagger to director of diversity and inclusion at the contractor, showcasing the power of opportunity and advocacy for community benefits. Next slide. And that's just some more kudos with the tribal program, because it's a pre-apprenticeship and supportive service grant program. And WisDOT's program provides funding for supportive services and pre-apprenticeship training to marginalized individuals, particularly for tribal communities. They're focusing more on tribal communities. And after this presentation, if you all want to know more about tribal communities and how to start this type of program with your tribal community, just hit me up via email or things of that nature, and I will gear you to Tina Hooper. Tina Hooper is the guru with Strategic Workforce Development. She's also the coach. She's a coach here also with Outreach, and she can gear you to the proper way to get this program going. Next slide. SWD in action in Oregon. Oregon has a wonderful program. In Oregon, these are the things that they do in Oregon for their Strategic Workforce Development Program. They provide childcare, which is wonderful, because a lot of the individuals who are involved in the Strategic Workforce Development, a lot of them, believe it or not, are females. We're trying to get females into heavy highway construction. And some of these females that are in heavy highway construction are single moms, and some of them need childcare and things of that nature. So they provide childcare, hardship assistance, and respectful workplaces, which create a tool to measure workplace culture from employees' perspectives. Because, you know, sometimes when you're a woman, that's not saying all women or all men, when you're a woman and you're working in heavy highway construction, that's kind of not normal. So sometimes when people see that, you know, you get your catcall jokes and things of that nature. So what we're trying to do is what they're trying to do in Oregon is create a respectful workplace, so that type of stuff wouldn't happen. Next slide. Idaho also has piloted the SWD in action. The Idaho Department of Transportation iconic program has transformed over 50 lives across 3 locations. Their program is phenomenal. They do concrete and cement masonry, heavy equipment operating, and welding and ironwork. Their program also has boosted female participation, and that's our main goal, is to boost female participation. We're trying to get females interested in heavy highway construction, and they provide, which includes housing, PPE, counseling, gas, childcare, and more. And if you see the little blurb with the exclamation point, Idaho looks for state government partners for program support. Next slide. New York State. You know, New York State has it going on as well too with their program. They have determined 7.7 million workforce hours and trade-specific needs to guide hiring and training. And they develop training programs with industry input, and they place. That's what I like. I like the idea that they place, because a lot of people go through these programs and they're kind of nervous because they say, okay, what I call it is with them, what's in it for me. So after this program, what am I going to get from this program? And that's an old Army recruiter. I used to be an Army recruiter, and that's what the word we use, with them. When we would go out and recruit a soldier, what's in it for me? So they want to know what's in it for them. So what they're doing is now they're doing direct hiring, union membership, and OJT. They still continue with on-the-job training, which is great for the New York State. Next slide. Vermont. Now, even Vermont, and also if you have your camera, if you have your phones, you can hit the little QR code there so you can see a lot of things that Vermont is doing. But Vermont Agency of Transportation employs various programs to develop its SWD program. Entry-level driving program, Vermont local roads, planting seeds, Vermont works for women. And like I said, with the Strategic Workforce Development Program and HCWP and OJT, we're trying to gear more towards women so we can get women into the program. Not saying that everyone else isn't important, which they are, but we also just want to get women involved in the program. Next slide. Oh, also, we have a toolkit and outreach materials. And what I'll do too, I'll provide that link, because I'm quite sure you all can go on that link. And it's a wonderful link to go on. It'll tell you everything about the strategic workforce development that FHWA is piloting. You have free resources to help identify, train, and place and retain individuals in the workforce to fill construction jobs that support the development of the nation's highway system. And it's really, really nice, because the resources include, we have a playbook there, we have some case studies that's there, some postcards and some brochures, and some sample memorandums of understanding. You can use that stuff and tailor it to your state. And what I'll do, like I said, I'll put the link, the link in the chat so you all can have that link. Next slide. In the playbook, the purpose of the playbook is just it helps the states and local and tribal communities identify, train, and place workers in the construction workforce. And it let's see, you will meet the resources, the needs to deliver your highway construction projects. And one result of this partnership is a highway construction workforce development playbook. And this playbook, the only thing I can say is this playbook is phenomenal. It took a lot of man hours to put this together. We did a lot of brainstorming with different states, and we developed this playbook. So once you see this playbook, you can develop this playbook to your state's needs. Next slide. A playbook to build tomorrow's highway construction workforce. Once again, we just talked about the playbook. It's just simple, repeatable plays that the DOTs can use. They get workforce development boards, community colleges, nonprofits, and contractors can use this as well. So you can pass it on to them. And it reflects solutions to workforce development challenges, because sometimes there's a lot of challenges trying to build a workforce development program in your state. And this playbook can kind of smooth out those bumps for you. Next slide. We just talk, this playbook we got, this playbook is the truth. So we always talk about the playbook, because this is an example of the playbook. And this one is led by, I believe, a program in Arizona. Yeah, has led this playbook. In the New York Department of State, they customize their own playbook too. And that's also available in our SWD in the link, and you can go in there and see that. And like I said once before, you could tailor this book to your state and just get some ideas from the other states as well too. Next slide. Now, there was a little video, and I'm not quite sure that video would play, because sometimes we have issues with that. Only thing that's talking about is Texas Strategic Workforce Development Program. Texas has an excellent strategic workforce development program, but they named theirs Connect You to Jobs. And what Texas have done now, Texas are going into the prison system. And what they're doing is recruiting inmates that are getting discharged getting released from prison. And those who don't have a bad background or record or whatever are, can participate in this type of program. So that's what Texas has been doing, and it's phenomenal. It's been working. So what we're trying to do is pilot it to other states as well too, to see if it's ways we can penetrate the prison system, to go into these prisons to try to recruit these individuals as they come out. You know, it could be felons or whatever, but it has to be a certain, I want to say, a certain level of crime, you know, before they can be qualified for the program. Next slide. Woohoo! That concludes my presentation, but if you have any further questions or need any answers, Christy Courier, she's our program manager for FHWD, Office of Infrastructure. She's the person that's in charge of the Strategic Workforce Development Program, and she can give you any kind of information you need, all kind of insights, and get you on the right track that your state can start this phenomenal program. Next slide. Nothing. Subject to your questions?
Yeah, hey Rhonda, thanks so much for that. And I would
You're welcome.
encourage anybody that hasn't been out to the Strategic Workforce Development website to go out there. I use one of their videos, the Innovation Spotlight Strategic Workforce Development show all the time to tell people what we're talking about. It's just done in like 2.5 minutes, very succinctly talking about private and public agencies coming together to kind of solve the challenges that we're seeing. So we do have that link in our kind of intro slides for each of the breakout sessions, but I would encourage you to do that. Also, the playbook is really customizable. It's a springboard and you can use it as you see fit. It's really tools. So thanks, Rhonda, so much for
You are greatly welcome. And
for
like I
being-
said, you could, if you all need any information, you could reach out to me. And what I'm gonna do is, or Heather, you have the slides. Are you able to copy and paste that tool book link
Sure.
in the chat so they can have that?
I probably can, and we can send it out afterwards as well.
Okay.
Let me just try and shuffle all my screens together. In the meantime, anybody have any questions or comments or concerns for Rhonda?
And remember, no question is a dumb question. And if I can't answer your question, I'll catapult it to our guru and she would be able to answer that question. I can make sure you get that answer ASAP.
So one of the things that I'll say is I've been introducing our Road and Bridge Institute here in Colorado is that is a direct product of what Idaho is doing with their iconic program. I worked very closely with Idaho when setting up our Colorado program. It's a little bit different to meet our state's needs a little bit better. But you know, just like using the playbook, if you can not reinvent the wheel and start off and then refine the wheel for your needs, it's much easier. It was really easy. I reached out and got a grant, but they shared with me their grant application, their marketing. So I didn't really have to start from ground
Right.
zero like they did.
Right.
I'm kind of riding their coattails happily. And they've been a great partner for me to call and say, hey, how did you guys approach housing? I've not done that before when it comes to supportive services, and they've been right there. So I would also say, you know, when Rhonda talked about what New York and Idaho and Wisconsin and Vermont are all doing, you know, don't have to remember everything she said in today's presentation. You can just reach out to them more
Oh,
often
yeah.
than not. I think they're
Without a doubt.
very willing
Without
to share their
Right.
stories.
And with this program, we're sticklers on not reinventing the wheel because all those resources are out there. Just take those resources, copy and paste them, and just tailor them to your state. And like Heather said, if it's a certain grant you want to write, reach out to the state, your states or whatever. Say, hey, have you done this grant before? Can I see it? You know, and just tailor it from that. I like to work smart, not hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. What are you all doing in your organizations when it comes to, are you with partnering with public or private agencies? Anyone? Anyone?
I'm an academic who is interested in strategic workforce development at the Departments of Transportation. So I'm coming at it from a different perspective, but I found this extremely useful, especially some of the range of creative options and solutions that people are using, because one of the things that really disadvantages public agencies, and I'm part of a public agency as well, public university, is we are not competitive in terms of pay. We're not competitive in terms of some of the career progression kind of issues. So what are some of the other mechanisms that departments of transportation can use to really get people to feel that this is a place that they can grow, that they can contribute to, that they can make an impact beyond just the typical workplace that you have. So we are using, I have done a couple of projects with the Wisconsin DOT, and you profiled that, but I missed that part of this presentation because I was going between 2 or 3 other presentations and simultaneously going on. So there were abundance of riches. And one of the things that DOT, the Wisconsin DOT, has been doing is really using the purpose part of it, and which quite a few of the DOTs are using to attract people. But purpose can only get you up to a point. It does not help you with justifying the massive pay gaps between you and your colleagues in the private industry. So this is where some of the things that may not be in control of some of the DOTs may come into play, where the state legislatures may be more receptive to in some of the states to help attract and retain talent by reducing the wage gaps between the public sector and the private sector, technical staff, the engineers. And in some other places, they may not be as receptive. So, that's where some of the other creative solutions, like the range of options in terms of providing housing subsidies, childcare subsidies, all the other things that can help to kind of even a little bit of that gap, bridge the gap a little bit. But it remains a challenge. And the structural issues in terms of having the support staff in strategic workforce development. This is where the Wisconsin DOT is beginning to invest much more effort and time and resources into that. But the way the structure has been set up, we have a centralized system, the state level system for all the public sector agencies. So it's a pretty big break to try to implement some of these things and say we need to have our own in-house unit when the state supplies it to all the public sector agencies. So there are some of these forces that just make it a little harder a road to travel on for some DOTs compared to the others. So I was hoping to get some other ideas that we can use when we partner with them, but it's been fantastic. And I've been using so many of the FHWAs and NCHRP's resources, and I'm like constantly going through the website. I'm like, boy, this is like a treasure trove. So thank you for all the work that you're putting in there, and and for Heather and Carol to put together this seminar. I wouldn't have normally joined, but because of
Yeah.
my interest in these issues, I
Thank
did.
you
So
for-
I'm
thank
really
you for
glad I
joining,
did.
Romelia. And Romelia, what I would say, hopefully I pronounced your name right, Romelia.
Yes.
What I would say is selling the program. The
Mhm.
state has to really sell the program. If they can go in and talk to anyone who's involved politically or nonprofits and things of that nature, sell the program. Tell them how this program can benefit the community. Tell them how the program can benefit the individuals in the community. And once you go in there with a selling tool, and cry your eyes out, hey, we have this program, it does X, Y, Z, it's phenomenal. It can help, undeserved people, it can help women, it can help this person, that person. And because the main thing is to make someone else's life better.
Absolutely.
Because I've always said working in civil rights and things of that nature, civil rights and stuff, it's not hard work, it's heart work.
Yes, I
So-
love that.
So
I
once
love that.
once we
yeah.
get out and just sell the program and tell them the importance of this program and how this program can help your community, I think they'll kind of the wheels might start turning and churning, and they might start gearing more towards the program and saying, hey, how can I help? What can we do?
Mhm.
Yeah, I would
I love
agree.
it.
And I thought what was really interesting is here in Colorado, I mentioned we established the Road and Bridge Institute, which is really laying the pipeline for individuals not already within the industry. And that program does provide for some supportive services by way of housing, transportation, lodging, food insecurity, and so forth. What I thought was really interesting that you're doing in Wisconsin is that you're doing that for current employees as well. And that really lines up with the retention piece of things. Like it's not so much, it's not always, you know, that they don't want to be there, it's that they can't. It's the pay gap, it's the,
Yes.
that sort of thing. And so that was really interesting. That sparked definitely a light bulb in my brain. So Sanjeev and DOT, watch out. Like I'm gonna see if we can do that. And kind of, I always get so much out of what other states are doing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I don't have an original thought or anything, but I do get a lot of information and ideas. Going away or going around. And one thing that like we heard about New York is the placement. And we've heard
Yes.
through our Road and Bridge Institute, when I work with those alternative high schools or the veterans programs or whatnot, do you have placement? And right now we do not have placement. We do encourage organic networking, and we are happy to connect them to their local agencies that are within our channels. So we're, I guess, part of the way there. It's not direct placement, but we can say, hey, we can introduce you to all the agencies in your area. We can tell you which ones have openings and that sort of thing. But for New York, that was something that stuck out to me that we're not doing in Colorado, I will say, yet. So no, great conversation. I really appreciate it. We are at time. I want to be respectful of the 15-minute break. So I'm gonna close down this conversation, but the conversation, of course, continues. So if you have any further questions, I'm available to speak. I'm going to be sharing out these presentations afterwards. We are also recording this session so that we can go back and re-listen or get the QR code we couldn't get our phones to work for right away. But we will be back at 10 o'clock. And let me I'll share my screen now because we have two last exciting presentations that we will be giving. If I can get to the slideshow, I will tell you what they are. They are, oh boy, this is advancing in a very quick manner. 1, 2. Okay, here we go. We'll see training and trades, education and transportation from the National Highway Institute, as well as Kyle Lester, who's on the call right now, for what Denver International Airport, or DEN's Center of Equity and Excellence in Aviation, is doing. So please come back in 15 minutes. Okay, third and final session for today. Colorado LTAP, I think we've been through, but there is an LTAP center in every single state and Puerto Rico. So reach out to your local and see what they're doing. If it's not us, if it's us, hopefully you're already hearing from us. But as Chris said earlier, if you don't get our newsletter, please feel free to pop that in the chat and we'll go ahead and get you on that. Don't forget, you get free college credit through taking some of our programs for the highway maintenance degree program, which is offered at the national level. It can be completed completely online as well as within your own time. So it's really flexible, and we are the highest contributors to prior learning credits in the school. So if you've learned it, we're going to try and get you credit for it for that degree program as well. And when I say we, I mean Sue Belargin, my counterpart and partner in crime. We do have a Road and Bridge Institute coming off of our last presentation. This is an effort to lay the pipeline into our industry, both public and private agency. It's a 3-week full-time training program where participants will get their Road Scholar 1, OSHA 10, Flagger certification, first aid certification, the Road Safety Champion certificate from the National Center for Rural Roadway Management, rural roadway safety, not management. And then if they get a position, if graduates get a position with the local agency and are in good standing after 3 months, we're going to sponsor them to get their CDL. So trying to help not only the individual get upskilled, but also provide a skilled workforce and necessary workforce for our local agencies. Applications, I will say, are open until November 1st, and we only have 20 spots available per session. Continuing the education, this is what Rhonda was talking about last session. So if there is a toolkit for strategic workforce development, you can find a lot of that on this site. I also have previously put in the chat the toolkit link that she had as well, and can make that available. And then just be aware that in June of this coming summer, TRB is hosting its national summit on the future of transportation workforce right here in Colorado. So hopefully we'll see you there. We are on to our third and final session. And today we are joined by, going too fast, by Kyle Lester in our end. Kyle has been the SVP of maintenance for DEN. That's hard for me to say. It's always been DIA, and I know they're changing it. DIA is Denver International Airport, but we're changing it to DEN or DEN. I'll get there eventually. But he's been in that role since February of 2020, so interesting time to come on to into that role for sure. But prior to joining DEN, he served as the Director of Maintenance and Operations for CDOT. From 2014 to 2020. In this role, he's responsible to represent the Division of Maintenance and Operations on to senior management, or on the senior management team rather. In 2013, he served as CDOT's flood recovery as, I don't know why my things are weird, sorry. He served as CDOT's flood recovery manager, which is interesting, overseeing the delivery and coordination of all the permanent repair projects necessary to rebuild roads and bridges damaged by the 2013 flood. Mr. Lester also performed the role of logistic chief for Flood Recovery Incident Command Center in Loveland immediately following the September event through the end of 2014. Prior to his flood recovery work, he served as CDOT's Region 5 maintenance superintendent for 3 years, overseeing roadway network for Colorado's southwest 15 counties. We have 64 counties in Colorado, so not a small percentage of those, and began his career with CDOT in Eagle in 2002 as an engineering technician. So he's kind of been a little bit of everything, local and national, and now he's at DEN. And then he later transferred to Durango in 2004 and was promoted to construction project manager, overseeing the CDOT construction projects. He worked for 5 years in the Forest Service as a forestry technician and on the roads and trails in Green Mountain National Forest in Vermont. And then he did graduate from the University of Buffalo in New York, and is married and has 3 children and lives in Arvada, Colorado. So what I will say is that Kyle and I have just kind of met each other a couple days ago, but the name is a household name for us here at LTAP. He was pretty instrumental in getting LTAP to Front Range Community College and helping to set up the highway maintenance degree program. And I will say it again because it's a bragging point, the only one in the country of its kind. So thanks for joining us today, Kyle, and I will hand it over to you. I think you have slides to share. Is that right?
Yes. Let's see if. Well, good morning, everybody. All right. When sharing, always pick the right screen to share, right? Does that look right?
It does. Yep.
All right. Well, it's moved all over, so I love when you have working with 3 screens and everything moves when you share. Good morning, everybody. Proud to be here, right? This is a passion of mine. Thanks for the intro, Heather. Yeah, I've worked a lot of different spots, Vermont and Colorado. Kind of working in 2 different parts of transportation. sectors of the industry. Surface transportation now, the airfield or an airport. It's a bit odd, right? But realize Denver, we have a second largest airport in the world, space-wise, so land-based. So we have a lot of elements that are surface transportation. A large field, what we call the field maintenance, which is roadways. We do, all runways, airfield, landside, parking lots, things like that. So it's a lot of it's many of the same functions. This job is a bit heavier in the facilities management, obviously with the large facilities that we have, but a lot of these same elements, and across all of these spaces, we struggle with the same things as far as recruitment and retention that all agencies do in the trades type of positions. So happy to be here to talk about it. What I wanted to focus on, this was about recruitment and retention, and we kind of wanted to put a spin on, the value of partnerships, kind of building off of what Rhonda talked about previously. Partnerships are critical to the success of any training program or development program. When you look at how to develop, your workforce, you're never going to get the resource to do all that in-house, right? It's unrealistic that you would get the FTEs. You might get the funding, but you're not getting the FTEs in any government agency to do all of that in-house. So the partnerships are critical to success of developing your workforce. So with that in mind, I wanted to focus in on some of the things that we're doing here at the airport. So here's kind of the general agenda that I was going to talk about and hit on. I was going to start with the Center of Equity and Excellence, the CIA program that we have developed. So overall airport, right? Denver is right now, we're the 5th busiest in the world, 3rd busiest in the country. Those trends are continuing. The development and growth at this airport is tremendous. It makes it very difficult, a challenge to keep up with, right? That's why I speak to, partnerships that we can't bring on enough FTEs to keep up with the growth here. You can kind of see through 2020, we had COVID and just the rapid recovery from COVID. Here we're crested over 40,000 employees at this facility. When you bring in all of our partners and stakeholders involved that work out here, pretty massive operation overall. Our visioning, right? Vision where we want to go. We have some high level goals that we want to maintain. And then we built out 4 pillars of how we're going to success. So Vision 100 is how are we going to meet 100 million passengers per year? What are the things that we need to be successful in meeting that? So if you notice, pillar number 1 is empowering our people. What do we need to do? We need to maintain and develop our workforce to meet those needs in the future. So that's where I want to focus our discussion. So the benefits of employee development, we all know these things, right? Employee engagement, skill enhancement, career advancement, critical, adaptability, succession planning, right? And performance improvement across all the operation. So leads us to CIA. We wanted to build the best in class. We wanted to be the thought leaders in aviation. Okay, so we kind of kick that concept out there. Well, why? What's the reason we want to be the thought leaders? And really, what we came down to is, I'll go back to generations, right? Gen Z. They want to understand why, and they want to see that career path, and they're skeptical, right? They want to understand the why is a big part of it. What's in it for me? As Rhonda spoke of, what's in it for me? that is critical to the Gen Z. And we can't fault them, right? Because most of us are Gen Xers that we taught them that, right? That, challenge authority, ask why, and what's not right for you, don't be there, right? So you think about recruitment and retention in an organization, you have to have a comprehensive, you know, comprehensive program of how we're going to develop those employees and show them what their career potential is. The other part of it, I think Gen Z and society today, we want the social programs. We want to see that we are that our employees want to see that the organization is participating in the greater community and society and benefiting society, right? So we built SIA. One thing I will talk about is how it was funded, right? We put about 40 million approved by city council, and we're going to build out best in class research. I want to talk a little bit about the groundbreaking. We broke ground, but I'll back up why. We felt it important, right, to actually have a physical space. A lot of stuff like we're doing here online, which is great, but when we're trying to do outreach and bring people in, we felt we needed a foothold, like an anchor point, and have an actual facility to host conferences, to host people. We have childcare programs at this facility. All of that package to engage our local communities and our workforce, or potential workforce. Right? Goals of SIA: accelerate. I want to focus on accelerate the economic and workforce development and the growth of underserved communities in our neighbors here. That was important to us. Support small and women-owned businesses. I know this is we're talking about our own workforce, but this is all part of the workforce and the package that we put forth to keep our employees here at this agency, that they see that we are being socially responsible, and they're part of an organization that's important to. Okay. So just a couple pictures, because I just interesting, like people see, we have the Hall of Equity. It's a big area that we can host all of these. We have a speaker series where we bring in thought leaders from around the country in transportation. Recently, we hosted 3 of the past 4 DOT secretaries for all of our employees, leaders across the Denton community could come and visit with and hear from. We have employee town halls will be hosted there. We have a program called Leadership Den, which is supervisors and frontline employees trying to extend into leadership roles. Aero Max, which is programs where leaders at the airport engage with other leaders around other large hub airports around the country. Big enough space to really host a lot of these different events, right? Just some other cool pictures of what we're building. I'm pretty excited on when that's going to be finished. So the career pathways that we're working through, we want to connect to the communities and really build what is that career pathway, all the way from youth into senior management. So people in high school, kids in high school, can actually see how they can grow all the way to being a director, a senior director, a senior vice president in this organization, and the steps along the way. So we built programs in youth and the high school, employee training, leadership development, right? And then senior leadership development, things like the Harvard School of Business. We get sent to those things and participate in that. So part of being a thought leader, right? We want to build out research innovation. This is where we collaborate and bring in a lot of our interns from colleges and kind of start their, introduce them into aviation and bring into the aviation industry. We test out technologies, so there we're focused a lot on contracting and how can we bring on tests and pilot projects. Another key aspect of connecting to our communities and potential career growth is how we build our businesses. So we built a business development training academy for all small businesses and owners of those businesses, and actually teach them how to be part of the procurement process and how to run. So skills development. So we have a 100 level course, 200 and a 300 level course that we develop small businesses into government contracting, and especially in aviation. Youth programs. So currently pretty excited about this. We've had about 2,000 students that have had presentations. They've been introduced into aviation. We've had 23 convert to hire interns. So out of this process, we actually are working through the HR processes with the city. That Denver International Airport is part of the city and county of Denver, so we have to abide by all the normal government hiring practices. So that always makes convert to hire or direct hire very challenging. But we have been successful in 23 so far, converting them. So speaking of partnerships, with our youth programs, I just throw this slide up here. Here's all the partners that we engage with and partnerships that we develop to make this happen, this youth program. So the value of partnerships is critical to success of any employee development program. Another aspect, Rhonda, you talked about a little bit. We call this our New Heights program. So basically, it's parolees out of the corrections facilities. We bring them on through a partnership with Bayard Industries. They go through. It's about a 14-week program where they get life skills training. They get all aspects of how to reintegrate into society. Very successful program. We bring them out to the airport. They perform a lot of maintenance functions for us. We're trying to build the next phase of this program where it would be more of a long-term being a year-long program, and then eventually get that convert to hire into city positions. Obviously, as Rhonda talked about, there's always challenges there with especially on the aviation side with security and what their previous offense was, but we're working through those, and I think we're gonna get to a version of where we get direct convert to hire from these people. But hugely successful program for us. Employee career pathways, right? So we've really focused in on onboarding, right? Facilitated workshops, job shadowing. You see all these things. Den workshop, which is more now you're an employee and how do you grow into a supervisor, into middle management and senior management. And like I said, the senior manager workshop, executive coaching. So kind of you see the career pathway that we built. So we have 13 developed programs, 4 external offerings. There again, partnerships with other organizations to bring on those programs. And each group going through a lot of these programs has capstone projects, process improvements, and projects that we have implemented here at the Den to make us better. Here's kind of a breakdown in maintenance of some of the things that we're working on. New employee orientation, we talked about CDL. These are all the aspects of employee programs within maintenance. And our partnerships for our employee programs. These are all the groups that we work with to make these happen. And growing, like I said, we're always looking for additional partnerships. Don't see Front Range Community College. That's since I've been here for the past 5 years. I've wanted to figure out a way to bring Front Range into this fold and build that partnership. So about maintenance. So maintenance at the airport, we have it's broke up into 4 different kind of work groups. It's facilities, fleet, field, which is both air side and land side. And to translate it back to surface transportation, there's no other airport out there that has, Pena Boulevard, 13 miles of basically interstate highway, the traffic volumes of an interstate highway that ends up kind of in a giant cul-de-sac at your facility. So field takes care of those 13 miles, plus I say 13 miles, but there's all sorts of surrounding roads that I would relate to county roads or local roads that we have to maintain that lead into their feeders to the airport. The other aspect of field is being the second largest land-based airport in the world. You might ask who's the first. It was Saudi Arabia. They claimed basically the whole desert, so that's why they're the largest. But so the second largest, that creates a lot of potential for development on land side, which then we get into more of a public works organization taking care of developments and city streets. And that's where we're evolving to as we open up a lot of our developments, is building out a public works section of airport maintenance. So in maintenance, kind of our career path, we've been really focused on vocational training, college, a lot of in-house and skill development, on the job type of training is what we're focused on, and really trying to enhance promotion opportunities for people to see where they can grow their skill sets, gain the experience, and then promote within the organization. We've been working on a lot of internships, formal apprenticeship programs, and then trainee programs. Sometimes internships, apprenticeship programs, those terms get tossed around. How we're defining it a bit is more short-term is apprenticeships, so more certifications, things like that. We bring on internships, and then apprenticeships are the formal, 4-year type of programs. Those employees, we hire them in as employees and put them through this apprenticeship, a formal apprenticeship program. And then training programs are all the career development once you're compliance training all the way through skill development. So these are our focus points. You can see commercial driver's license. We have one of I'd say the strongest CDL licensing groups that I've been around in the state. We have our own testing site. Everybody's certified testers, so a very strong program and developing CDL drivers. Heavy equipment, a lot of specialty equipment, so we really focus on that. We kind of take a model of train the trainer, where we take experienced operators, put them through train the trainer programs, and do kind of decentralized training for those programs. A lot of compliance training in aviation, you could imagine. So we have to really pay attention and be regimented about our compliance training. Career pathways. So I put this up there as an example of what we've worked through to develop and show, like an electrician. So working through the apprenticeship, electrician 1, and kind of what those skill sets are, electrician 2 and electrician lead. The next phase of this part of the program is we've been laying out what are those classes that can be taught to build those, to deliver this curriculum. So that's where the partnerships come in, right? Reaching out to organizations that can deliver these classes once it will help us find them and deliver these classes, so we don't have to try to have all internal staff deliver this. So far, these are the pathways that we've developed. a lot of trades positions, airport paint and maintenance and airport maintenance technicians. We have recently switched over to airport maintenance technicians from equipment operators. That'll be completed at the end of the month. Pretty excited about that, to try to correctly describe the job and the role in the organization. Moving on to our apprenticeships and internships. Like I said, we break out internships as more short-term, and then apprenticeships are more the formal 4-year. So these are what we've developed to this date. So our apprentice with electricians, again, I put this up here to kind of give an overview of what that program looks like. Our partner is Construction Industry Training Council. So that's where we send those employees. Again, these are our employees that we bring on, full-time employees that we hire and they interview, and they get put right into this apprenticeship program. And we send them to the CITC council for their formal training. And then everything else is a curriculum that's delivered is through on-the-job training and mentoring. We're paying for all the costs of this in the end, kind of through a reimbursement and a combination of paying for some classes. Fleet mechanic. So we develop a partnership with Pickens Technical College. It's about a 6-month program, but it's a little longer on the formal side, right? They're a mechanic at school, or going through school at Pickens, their fleet mechanic program. We bring them here, hire them on in a temporary state. And it's roughly a 6-month time that they work, but they'll work like 3 days a week in the shop and go to school the rest of the time. We have been successful here doing a convert to an FTE from an intern. So pretty excited about that. We've only had 2 at this point that convert to hire, but we've proven out the process. So as we develop this idea further, at least we kind of broke ground in a sense on convert to hire for these type of positions. But a great partnership with Pickens Technical. And same with HVAC. This is just getting going. Another partnership with Pickens to build out our HVAC technicians. Moving on, I'll move to maintenance leadership development. So picking up from moving from technician into a leadership role in the organization, basically a supervisor. We are building out a series of quarterly workshops where we talk about different leadership, some fundamental, like more technical supervisor type of training, but all in the idea of advancing the skill set of supervisors and building their confidence to move into a leadership role in the organization. And then we kind of wrap up the year with a 2-day conference, leadership conference, where we have speakers come in and kind of a little bit of workshop setting, but a lot of speakers and kind of leadership focused event. Strategies moving forward. Looking at it as an agency, trying to really be competitive starting wages is key, right? As far as recruitment. So we've done about 15 different pay raises. The individual pay raises aren't really hitting the mark. It's more shifting what the job description is and getting the right job description out there that we're in the paid market for that job description. So heavily focused on recruitment in that aspect, the technical aspects of OHR. Increase in talent pipeline through partnerships, right? Educational institutions, union organizations, military organizations, really have we accessed all of the pipelines and all of the other organizations that could bring potential employees to us, right? Some other, I toss in here stipends, other ways to kind of reward people for different skill sets, right? And enhance or entice people to grow their skill sets, right? And work-life balance, we want to focus on I didn't put that on there, but it's all based around work-life balance, and which is always a challenge in the maintenance industry, right? Retention, right? Development overall, like the whole presentation, talking about why you want to have an employee development program. That is probably the main driver for employee retention. We talk about wages and pay. Wages are good to bring people in, right? The recruitment aspect of it, but it's not keeping, the newer part of the workforce, Gen Z, it's not keeping those employees here. It's what is their growth potential within the organization, and how does that relate with their salary and their growth potential for earnings. Maintenance career pathways, connection from youth all the way to leadership, kind of getting connected early on in the high schools and through technical colleges, and then again showing the leadership skills of still all in this effort of showing how career potential for employees. So I wanted to just show, here's our current, right? So you can see we're below 10%, and in a maintenance organization, or at 10%, getting to 10% is kind of key, right? Rarely see that in any maintenance organization through my career, but if I would back up 18 months ago, before we started deploying all these programs, we were at 28%. And at 28% for a couple of years, through COVID, we were at 32% or higher. So we've slowly been working on all of these different initiatives to bring down our vacancy rates. We still struggle, which is what a lot of us are here to talk about, right? In the field, we're still at 16, almost 17% in field. That's our equipment operators. So not hitting the mark for our equipment operators. We've been successful in a lot of these programs with our trades positions, but not in mechanics, but just not hitting the mark on equipment operators. What I'm seeing is it starts with the pay, right? So that's why this past year I've been focused on reclassification for equipment operators into airport maintenance technicians, with really describing out what that role is. Heard a lot of comments about I'm hired on as an equipment operator, but I rarely operate equipment. I'm more being a maintenance worker, running a jackhammer, busting up concrete. So
yeah, Kyle, that was going to be my question: is what competencies? What does it mean to be an operator, like a technician, from the jobs that you're just highlighting as your biggest need right now?
Well, they're operating equipment probably about a third of the time.
Okay.
Right. So that is a key. You have professional operators that come in and expect, the title is equipment operator, and they're out fixing guardrail, the same things that you would do in a highway, fixing guardrail, fixing signs, fixing potholes. Out on the airfield and running jackhammers, working on a laydown crew for asphalt. And they get frustrated because that's not the work that they signed up for. So.
Gotcha.
In a city process and a government process takes time. So we spent this past year working through that reclassification, because I have to get all the other city agencies that use those classifications on board, so it takes time. But we've accomplished it, made it through the review boards, made it through city council, was approved, and we're implementing at the end of this month.
Okay.
So I'm hoping with that, and I never like to have a strategy of hope, but we jumped up 2 classifications in doing this process and pay. So the idea, the concept is that over time, we're gonna start seeing our recruitment improve with the pay increase, and then the retention improve because of the proper job description.
Gotcha. Well, the reason why I mention that is I'm sure there's some transferable skills that you look for your machine operator, that students at our Center for Integrated Manufacturing that come out of programs like precision machining and electronic engineering and automation. So yeah, it may be a good thing to have you come visit our center, and I can give you a tour and kind of take you behind the scenes, because there may be something there potentially to create a partnership of students coming out of our programs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. So I just tossed this up here. This is the past year. You can see some of our analysis show that, yeah, maybe the job markets have shifted slightly in the past year, but I want to say it's a lot of these programs that we put out. We've improved a lot of our onboarding. So bringing on that employee and showing them that career potential is really enhanced over this past year. And I believe you can kind of see this in our vacancies. We went from 74 at the beginning of the year, and now we're down in we're down in 10%. We dropped down to that 10% point. Significant improvement. We're still striving to get below that. But I believe that these programs have had an impact, a positive impact. And what I could say when I speak with first-year employees, I have twice a year I go out and meet with all first-year employees at their work unit. I'm hearing a lot of positivity, whereas in the past 4 years being here, it was a lot of problems and issues that were brought up, unhappy. The new employees, through all the processes that we have, like I said, onboarding and showing them that career path, the focus on training and development, I'm hearing very, very few critiques or comments, negative comments. It's pretty much all positive, and that's pretty outstanding, I would say, for a workforce of 500. And I just had was given the number the other day. It's like 96 new positions this year. So I met with 96-ish people here in the past few weeks, and to have them all positive is an outstanding improvement. So with that, I walked through a lot of different stuff, kind of bounced around, but we had for Denver, for DEN, we have this program that's at the high level organizational level, the SIA program for all employees that connects communities to career advancement for underserved communities. And then once you bring them on as employees, how we grow them, right? And then in maintenance, we're building, or we built kind of more of the trades focused connection in partnership with SIA, with the overall organizational program, but we're getting a little more specific into the trades with our programs. Still in development of how that partnership even within our own agency works. But that's part of this presentation, is the value of all the partnerships. Like I said, to kick us off, you'll never get the FTEs to do all this in-house. So you have to have the partnerships.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kyle. I have so many takeaways that I was writing down. Some of them are just like such well-defined processes that you have. You know, thinking for our local agencies, have you defined your career path? And you know, how do people transition? We at LTAP offer the supervisory skills and development program, which I say goes from being part of the crew to leading the crew and beyond. But what are the agencies doing? You know, how can we talk with them about that and work with industry as well? Because I know that they're seeing some of the same challenges. So that was really great. The train the trainer. I know a lot of people have done that with CDL in the past. It's a little bit more difficult to do that now, but with other things as well, right? Make sure that there's that knowledge transfer, but giving them the skill set to know how to transfer that knowledge. So yeah, I don't know. Your
Training-
CDL, I'm gonna call you about that later.
Oh, yeah.
I have some questions.
Like I said, you know, at CDOT, you know, we really tried to reestablish the the CDL training program, and we did before I left. They had a very robust, years ago when I first started CDOT, very robust program. Then we kind of faded, and then we brought it back. When I came here to the airport, I was astounded by the what the airport does and the investment that they made into CDL training and certification. So,
Yeah,
and we've kept up with all the new requirements that have come on in the past 3 years, right?
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I also appreciated how you've put an emphasis on workforce development for not only entry level. I think a lot of times when we hear workforce development and skilled workforce, we think more of those entry level, but it is important to also know that we need to upskill and feed those you know, those career path positions and not just focus on getting them in initially. But what I did appreciate, because I was starting to look at your nice slides and all of your processes, and I was like, oh, this is really nice and developed, and I'm not feeling behind the 8 ball at all, was the mention of, hey, it takes a bit to stand up. And you talked
Yeah.
about that with your apprenticeship and your internship. And I think we're experiencing that as we stand up our Road and Bridge Institute, is it doesn't happen overnight. Right, you have to build it. You have to find those partnerships like you have with Bayard and get those people interested. And so, you know, it's you're looking at the long term, not the short term. So thank you for including that in your presentation as well.
those are all like 2 years in development. So you have to
Yeah.
have patience. You have to first you have to have the vision of where you want to go, and then you know you got to stick to it, but be realistic as you walk down that journey, right? You got to
Yeah.
push hard, but be realistic about it.
Yeah.
And
Well, I've given all of my comments. We have less than a minute because we're already late, but does anybody have anything else for Kevin before we jump to the general session?